Hey everybody, today I want to talk about CT Phipps. We'll talk real quick about his book, Moon Cops on the Moon, which comes out November 13th. It is 256 pages long. It's a new book set in a world that he has a whole bunch of books in that there'll be several different series. I'll talk about those. I will give the book blurb for Moon Cops on the Moon, and we'll talk about it real quick. But I want to talk about like the entire world that Phipps has created. He has basically an entire world, think like Sanderson style, where several different series are all going to be set in the same world. This is going to be a time period that will go all the way from like the 2160s time-wise all the way to what appears to be a million years in the future. So a huge long time frame, which allows him to do a lot of different things with his books. The best way I can describe an awful lot of his books are that they remind me of the TV series Archer, if it was set in book form. And it's just kind of one of those things where if you like his books, I think you're going to like a lot of his books. On Goodreads, he's got thousands and thousands of reviews. He clearly has a big audience, and I'm going to talk about the way that I like to read his books. As you may have noticed, almost all of my both podcast episodes as well as YouTube reviews follow epic fantasy, maybe some urban fantasy, but generally strictly in the magical fantasy realm, whereas these books are going to tend to be more like sci-fi, I guess ludicrous sci-fi in some ways. They're going to be action-packed. There's going to be some superhero ones. Then there's going to be like ones with a lot of technology set in the future, as I mentioned. First, I'm going to talk about the Moon Cops on the Moon itself. I'll read the book blurb, which I think is going to give you a pretty good idea of what to expect with an awful lot of his books. I will say first thing that I read this book. I have read some of the other ones as well. But I do absolutely love to listen to these books on audiobook. I think that sometimes humorous books are the one exception to where I prefer to listen versus read. And so maybe if you happen to have a single credit that you've been wondering what you're going to do with, I might have a book or two to recommend from CT Phipps. Let's do the book blurb, and then we'll talk about this book and the larger universe that he's created. Welcome to the Moon. Neil Gordon screwed up his assignment on Mars, and they reassigned him to Antarctica. Now he's being reassigned someplace even worse, Luna City. A crime-ridden hellhole with a rich, ruling class, he almost immediately finds himself targeted by bounty hunters and cyborg terrorists. Thankfully, Neil has an unusual set of partners in Robot Dog Barksley and the snarky but badass Lucy Westenra. Yes, make all the vampire jokes you want. It's tough being a corporate cop on humanity's foremost colony, and before this adventure is over, he's going to have to deal with deranged influencers, mysterious female secret agents, and a 1970s-themed flying car called the Purple Rain. Can he survive to get reassigned? Who knows? Moon Cops on the Moon is set in the future punk setting of Agent Z, the Cyber Dragons trilogy, and Space Academy novels, but functions as a standalone series. It is a humorous, action-filled romp that fans of The Expanse, RoboCop, Demolition Man, and Blade Runner will enjoy. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's set in the same world as several of his other books. I'm also going to talk about some of the other ones as well. He has. I'm gonna bust out a list here because there's a bunch of them, and so we have the Cthulhu Armageddon series, which is post-apocalyptic Lovecraftian horror. I've read two of those. Think like humanity's almost been wiped out by Lovecraftian eldritch horrors, and the main character in that one is like a ranger for like the city that's left of humans. Then we have Cyber Dragons, which is set centuries in the future. I haven't read any of those books, but it sounds like they're kind of like a gangster type novel set in the future. The Red Room series, which I've also not read, says it's urban fantasy. Then, what do we have? Oh, it says here, an urban fantasy series with a magical super agent who investigates supernatural phenomenon. The Space Academy series is a bunch of ridiculous novels as well. The Supervillainy Saga is what I've read most of. I think I've read 8 of the 9 books in the Supervillainy Saga. If it's not 8, then it's 7. They follow a guy named Gary Karkovsky. He is in a world, kind of think book-wise, a little bit like Brandon Sanderson's Steelheart books, where there's lots of superheroes, an awful lot of supervillains as well. They're all throughout the world. Otherwise, think The Boys, but not quite so evil. Or I guess the best way to put it is think Brandon Sanderson's Steelheart books with The Archer as the overriding theme of them. Gary is a supervillain, but he's not really all that evil. So he spends a lot of time like foiling the most evil plots where someone might be trying to destroy the entire Earth. They're really funny, lighthearted. I really enjoy them. He also has a series called the Wraith Knight series. I read the first one of those. It's been like 6 or 7 years, but basically, like in Wraith Knight, I think the main character was, like the evil, emperor type person. He won the war. Like think of like if Darth Vader had won and then was like sad and didn't know what to do afterwards. Everyone just kind of had to get along and all that stuff. They're funny. Like I said, it's been a long time since I read those. A series that I really liked are the Bright Falls series. The first book in that one is called I Was a Teenage Weredeer. So the main character in that one, she's a teenager. Her family's not cool werewolves. No, they turn into weredeer. So when there's a full moon, they turn into deer. They're funny. I think that like the supernatural people in the area she lives in, I think they're in Michigan, they're getting like hunted down by something mysterious. He's got some vampire books, one set in Detroit. I can't remember if it connects with that Teenage Weirdeer ones or not as well. But let's talk about how his whole universe is going to be set up for CT Phipps. So first off, we have the pre-collapse books, and this is going to be like set in like 2160 is when they start. So there is some future technology, but we're otherwise living on a pretty normal Earth with some like black technology is what it's called that corporations and Earth governments understand, but the average person doesn't know. Then we have the post-collapse era, and there are some references to that in this Moon Cops on the Moon book. The post-collapse era is set, takes about 40 years. And it is after the super caldera in the Yellowstone National Park, just up the road from me here. It erupts and wipes out Montana and plunges the earth into darkness. The only reason that humanity survives is because of that alien black tech. It lasts like 40 years. And then as we come out of that, then we're going to be entering a period where there'll be like colonization. We'll explore a whole bunch of new worlds. So after the collapse, we'll have what's called the post-first contact era, and some of the books will be set in that period of time. Moon Cops on the Moon is set in the post-first contact era. Humanity is going to be dispersing and going into the stars. The alien technology is what now allows us to do that. Alien tech lets us do faster than light travel. Moon Cops on the Moon will be set in the moon base where people are going out and dispersing from to go to the colonies. The aliens, the community, as it's known, humanity is like real backwater, and we're almost not worth even thinking about for most of these people. At one point, on the Moon Cops on the Moon, they're supposed to figure out a murder that happens with the son of the ambassador of one of these alien races. They threaten to blow up the entire moon if we don't figure out who killed the ambassador's son. Then later on, there will be the Second Dark Age. Some of the books will be set in that time period. In the Second Dark Age, Earth gets destroyed. Then we're just dealing with colonies that become increasingly independent. And then the last period will be the Far Era, which is like a million years in the future. So we're legitimately dealing with huge time frames here. And as I mentioned, Moon Cops on the Moon is set in that post-First Contact era. So let's get into the book itself real quick. I know that usually I'll do like the good, the bad, and all that kind of stuff. But I think that most of these books, if you like one of them, then you're going to like a lot of them. They're all like 250 to 300 pages long. Like I said, they're quick, easy reads. Once I talk a little bit more about this book, then I will talk about how I like to read these books and where they fit into my ecosystem of fantasy. And then I'll talk about where they fit into my personal ecosystem of reading. I know that most of the books that you're going to see here, there are a lot of urban fantasy, but they're going to mostly be like, magical based. I read a lot of epic fantasy, a lot of grimdark to go along with my urban fantasy. But I don't generally read like a ton of sci-fi or stuff like these, especially that are like largely witty and satirical. Like I said, if you've ever watched the TV show Archer, then you're going to understand kind of how these books sound and the tone that they're going to take. So Moon Cops on the Moon follows a main character named Neil. Right off the bat, he lands on the moon and he gets attacked by a bounty hunter who happens to look like a 120-year-old grandma because she is a 120-year-old grandma. Then he's going to quickly meet one of his new partners, who happens to be a sentient AI corgi, right? The adorable little short-legged dogs named Charles Barksley. The dog named himself because he thought it was adorable. He started off life as a child's AI toy that became sentient. And once AI becomes sentient, then it's basically treated like a person in these books. So Barksley is a moon cop. Then his other partner, the reason there's a vampire joke is because she was a teenage actress to start off with before she became a cop. She is, pretty badass. The main character, he, gets himself into all kinds of ridiculous situations. And in a lot of cases, he doesn't have any desire to get himself into these situations. He just wants to live his life and be a cop, but he keeps on getting in the way of important, powerful people that he pisses off, and there'll just be more and more thrown at him. It's ridiculous. There's a whole bunch of cyberpunks that have like modifications, like some of them have had their arms or legs cut off, and they've made them into mechanized versions. One of the guys that he fights is like a gang leader, has a shotgun for an arm. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, right? We're not dealing with classical literature. So if from the way I've described all these books, it sounds like you'd enjoy them, then Moon Cops on the Moon is, I think, actually a really good example of these books, where I felt like it had a lot of heart. I really liked the supervillainy books as well, but I think that I like Moon Cops on the Moon. I liked Neil as a character a little bit more, I think, maybe than Gary, but the books they're hilarious all the way around. So how do I consume these books? I know they don't sound like my typical fare. Well, I have now read, I was going to say like 7 or 8 at first, but then I went through and looked at it. It's closer to 15 of these books. He has a ton of books. He puts out 4 to 5 a year sometimes at his peak. And even like this year, I think he'll have 3. So the way that I like to consume these books is I read a lot of grimdark, and especially for a couple of years there, that was basically all I read. Especially once we get into winter, right? We're here in the Northern Hemisphere, and in Idaho, I have a real winter. It gets really dreary. Here in the Boise area, I don't get a ton of snow, but I have lots of rain, lots of clouds. We get what's called an inversion. It will literally be like a fog that will roll in, and we won't see the sun sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I mean, it can be really dreary and depressing. And I found that when I read too many grimdark books or too much really heavy material in a row, it'll get me feeling a little bit depressed, and it'll actually affect my mood. I really like to read these CT Phipps books in between some of those darker and harder books. Or sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit down, I just want something lighthearted. I want something that's action-packed, that's funny, going to make me laugh. and that's not going to require, too much of my brain bandwidth or any of my emotional bandwidth, right? I really feel like these books serve a valid purpose for me personally by being a change of pace book. If you're the kind of person that likes reading comic books, or you like reading manga, or anything that is in a shorter format as a general rule, I think that CT Phipps is an author that you might enjoy. If you like The Boys, or if you like Archer, then you're going to like these books. As I've mentioned, I think that they're best in audiobook format because I really like the narrator, Jeffrey Kiefer, Kefer. Sorry if I'm butchering that. But they're just enjoyable books. Like I said, you're not dealing with classical literature here, or something that is really going to hit you in the feels for the most part. For me, these books serve a valuable purpose in my reading ecosystem. They help keep my mood up, and something when I just want to still have a book, or I want something like an audiobook format that's going to be there while I'm sitting in the tractor and I don't quite have the focus for that day to sit and read a book, right? Once again, Moon Cops on the Moon as a novel comes out November 13th. I do recommend it. I thought it was an especially good version of one of these books. But there's just so many books that are available through CT Phipps in his universe that if you go to his website, which there will be a link below in the notes, then you can see like where he has different stuff. Also, some of these books are available on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have that, then you can check one of them out for free. Also, he has some of these in omnibus packages, so I think like the supervillainy ones, you can get like 1 through 3. I think it's only like $6 on Kindle. There might be one now that has all 9 of them, and most of the other ones also have like package deals that are available either through his website or through Amazon. As I move forward, this is going to be my second episode in November coming out. Once again, like and subscribe my channel if you enjoy my videos. Also, I did get a couple of recommendations already. I'm hoping to get more. I'm going to start reading one classic every month. That could be anything from a huge book that is from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, to something a lot newer that's just a huge author, right? Someone recommended that I try Terry Pratchett. I somehow have never read any Terry Pratchett before, so that will be my book for the month of November. And then we're going to do a David Eddings book that will be for December. So go ahead and give me your recommendations. Let me know what you think about Change of Pace books. And like I said, like and subscribe, and give me recommendations. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching my video.